Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie News here on our YouTube channel. And this is our AMC Spoilers review for The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. My name is John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News. We are so glad you are joining us today. Now, before I introduce the people who are here with me to do this review, we want to remind you, this is AMC Spoilers, which means we are going to talk about The Hobbit as if you have seen them. Now, we know most movie reviews are done with the intention of letting you know if you should go see a movie or not. That's not what we're here to do. We are here to talk to you as if you have seen the movie already. If you have not seen The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug yet, you are not welcome here. Go away. You're not supposed to be here. This is for those of us who have seen The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, and we're going to sit around now and talk about the film. So, I mean, if you haven't seen it, you're going to spoil everything because we're going to talk about the movie as if you've seen it, full of spoilers, all that kind of crap. You have been warned. With that out of the way, I want to introduce people joining me. First of all, sitting to my right, she is the editor of movie news for AMC Movie News, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Lovely to be here. And as John said, spoiler-filled. I'm okay if you sit with us, but you're doing so at your own risk. Just saying.
Just put it on mute. And also sitting next to her, production manager, the oft ill and currently sick, Mr. Dennis Zen, who's joining us. Say thanks for being here, Dennis.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I don't want to see any comments saying, I can't believe there's spoilers in this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because you know they're going to come anyway.
Yes.
But you have been warned. All right, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug has come. I'll say right off the bat, I really did enjoy the first Hobbit film. Like, I think we talked about this before, but I feel like a lot of people were underwhelmed with the first Hobbit film because I think they were expecting the next installment of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's like, because you had Fellowship of the Ring here, beautiful film, wonderful, but it kept the energy level around here. And then you had Two Towers, it upped it a bit. Okay. And then you got to Return of the King, and it's way up here, it's crescendoing. I think people expected The Hobbit now to be that high energy. Remember, this was the first of a new trilogy, so it went back and it started here. And I love the way it portrayed Middle-earth and the hobbits and the way the dwarves were portrayed. That's what Bilbo Baggins... the movie had me the moment they did the That's What Bilbo Baggins Hates song, because I remember that from the book so clearly, and I loved it so much and it drew me in. So, but I gotta admit, even though I really liked the first one, I had my doubts about The Desolation of Smaug. Even though the trailers looked badass, they departed from the book a lot in the first film, but you could tell from the trailers and everything, they were going to depart even more because Orlando Bloom's back. Legolas is there. He ain't there. You got Evangeline Lilly playing a character that ain't in there. So you knew they were going to do a lot. But I'm going to tell you right now, and we'll start with this, our general impressions after that really elongated, long-winded introduction. I love this movie. I absolutely love this new Hobbit film. I thought it ramped up the action, it ramped up the intensity. We get deep into a lot of the characters. And, you know, my favorite thing, and I'll get more into depth in this when we go over the positives, my favorite thing is, what really stood out to me is that you realize that the Hobbit movies, not necessarily the book, are not really about Bilbo Baggins. The Hobbit movies are actually really about Thorin Oakenshield. And because, and I'll go into all my reasons why, but the action is great. There's great fun in the film. It goes a lot more in depth than the book does. It gives, and I found that I was eating up 95% of all the new material. I was eating that stuff up. So my general impression first, loved this film. So Amy Rose, what about you? Your general impressions of the movie?
I absolutely love this movie. When the credits rolled, first of all, amazing song. When the credits rolled, I was like, I want to go again immediately. I was just so, there was not, when we get to the negatives, like my positive is she is going to much outweigh that because I thought, first of all, I love me some Middle-earth. I love this world. Peter Jackson is so good at it. It was so rich. It was so vibrant. And I think you nailed it. Like with The Hobbit, people were expecting it to continue on that path. And this one felt more reminiscent of Lord of the Rings, which is probably why I loved it so much. And I would say I liked it more than the first. I thought the characters were great. The action was great. We'll talk about that barrel scene. Give me a break. That was so fantastic. Smaug, Benedict Cumberbatch was the perfect person. His voice was terrifying and sexy and lured you in. Motion capture, everything. I did miss my main man Gollum. Schmeagol. But I just thought this film was exceptional. The pace was fantastic. It flew for a near 3-hour film. It absolutely flew. I thought the pacing was great and just visually is so rich. And I can't wait to see it again. I absolutely love this movie.
Dennis?
So while I liked the first Hobbit, I didn't like it as much as you guys did. Mm-hmm. I thought there was a lot of issues in terms of pacing and tone. And for me, this second film, I think is a lot better.
Oh, way better.
A lot better. The number one thing is the pacing. Mm-hmm. Like, it flies by. In the first one, there was parts where I'm like, oh, it's kind of getting a little slow and repetitive. It's a bit jokey. Mm-hmm. The tone is not as serious. Where this one, you're right, it is a Lord of the Rings feel to it. And I felt like with all the new characters, and bringing back Legolas, it just felt more like that world to me. And yeah, the action was better. And then, I'm sure we'll talk about Smaug later. So that was all awesome. So I really like this movie, and I think I only saw the first Hobbit once in the theater.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I only saw it twice. So
this one, I'm sure I'll see multiple times.
Yeah. What about you, John? How many times did you see the original Hobbit in theaters?
Twice.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's modest for you.
I actually only got it is for a film that I really liked. But it's a long film. It is long. And I only ended up seeing it twice in theater. I've seen it several times at home since it's become available. But I only saw it twice, and I'm going to see. I've seen it once, the new film once at a press screening, and then Dennis, you and I, and a couple other people are going to go see it again tomorrow night, which I'm really excited about.
And I'm sure we'll see it again after that.
I
think this one is more, you can watch it on repeated viewings a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is, because it ups that energy level and whatever. So it's more of an exciting film, which lends itself to rewatchability. But now let's get to our positives about the film, the things we really liked about the movie. I got a feeling we're all going to have to jump back in again because we're going to remember lots of things. Yes. Okay, so let's talk then. I'll start it off. Smaug. Everything I had hoped he would be.
Oh, yeah.
The voice, the mannerisms. And, I spoke with Benedict Cumberbatch. I keep on saying botch. Everybody always corrects me. It's batch. Whatever. I'm going to say botch. So I spoke to Benedict, B-Man. And it's a lot of actors, and there's nothing wrong with this, but a lot of actors who do voice performances, they'll just show up, go to the sound booth and want to do it. Benedict was really, really adamant and how passionate he was about this character and how much he actually put into it. It wasn't just the voice. He did a lot from facial motion capture and a lot of crap like that. And he immersed himself in doing the voice of this character. And it comes across because my two favorite scenes in The Hobbit, the book. One is the barrel ride, which we will get to, because this is a totally different barrel ride than in the books. But the other is the ultimate confrontation, the verbal confrontation between Smaug and Bilbo Baggins. And it captured it. This movie captured all the nuances and the tension and the fear and all that kind of the unmitigated pompousness of Smaug with the intelligence and fear of Bilbo at the same time. It captured all of that. That scene was probably about 15 minutes long. That scene could have been, and I'm not exaggerating here, if that scene was an hour long, if an hour of this movie had just been in that room, Smaug and Bilbo talking, I would have ate up every second of it. I loved it. I'll go to the barrel ride for a second. I believe it is my favorite action sequence of any movie this year.
Wow.
And it's so different from the books, but just the first of all, the visual effects were great in it, but it seemed like in Lord of the Rings, lots of orc killing, lots and lots of orc killing, and every once in a while they put in a really cool kill. It felt like every other kill, especially in the barrel riding scene, was a really cool, hot kill. of an orc. I mean, like everything had a trick to it, and it was just played out so well. It was so fast paced. I'm just getting so excited talking about it. Anyway, I've got more that'll come to me. Let me throw it. Amy Rose, some of the real big highlights for you.
I mean, you touched on the two that we were all freaking out with, in the lobby after the film talking about it, because that barrel ride is one of the best sequences I've seen this year as well, because not only was it really great action and richness, and the water, like some of the shots were so incredible, and a lot of CGI that felt, again, very organic, which is when I hate when a movie takes me out, because you can really see the difference. And I was in the Holt scene, and it was also playful with also being badass at the same time. So I just loved it. It was all our favorite characters at once going down this river. Like, it was just such a fun time, and I loved adding Legolas and Tariel at the end there, because it kept just becoming, the plot line just kept getting richer and richer, and I absolutely love that. And I do think there was a very different energetic level of this one. We've kind of touched on that a little bit, but the first one it felt like a quest, like with a not little payoff, but a little less. This one, like, it just, again, that pacing, they just masterfully killed it in this one, like up until the very end, which we'll get to a little later, but it left me wanting more, and I just thought the characters were great. Evangeline Lilly, first of all, her career kind of took a pause after Lost. Mm-hmm. She's appeared in, Real Steel and a couple films here and there, but I loved her in this movie. I thought she was fantastic, and there's, kind of a little triangle brewing, and, I know a lot of people didn't like that romance, but to me, it didn't detract from the story at all, because I didn't think that it was enough of a, big plot point. It just kind of, they wanted to throw a little romance in here. That's great. But I really liked her. I thought she was believable in her action and her stunts, which is really important to me, especially for female characters. Because a lot of the times we've talked about this, like, you're just like, yeah, right. Yeah. You can't even pick up that sword. And Smaug. I mean, that scene between Bilbo and Smaug was so rich. The gold, the room that was in was so rich. And I love the dialogue. It was so witty and clever and dark, and it was just so good. So I loved it. And, with a film like this, you're supposed to want more. It is a trilogy. And, especially making a pretty thin book, stretching it into 3 films and not making it feel like it drags is a true talent. So Peter Jackson does this great, and I absolutely loved it.
Dennis?
Yeah, the thing with Smaug, I was worried watching.
I'm going to step away for a second. You guys keep talking. I got to grab something.
Okay. Well,
see you, John.
So with Smaug, I was worried that we wouldn't see a lot of him.
Yeah.
Because I know they were teasing it in the trailer, but when we actually got to see him, like the scale of him, it's crazy. Like, he's huge.
Yeah.
He's huge. The voice, obviously, Benedict Cumberbatch, awesome. And then the facial mannerisms.
So
and just, that's the thing that people may be worried about. I don't know if there's going to be enough of him. He's in it a lot. Yeah. A lot. They spared no expense on putting him together.
And it was so rich, that scene where he was introduced and how he woke up and you see his eye and all of that. Like, I just thought that was so masterfully done. Yeah. And then the fire, like, it was so rich. I could feel it.
The tension of, like, even though people who've read the book and know the story, that Bilbo's not going to die. Yeah. But while you're watching, you're like, oh my God, is he going to get burned?
And he's up close and personal with this dragon.
And how's he going to get out of this?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. The reason I ran away, because it is, you raised a really cool point, and I want to highlight this. I keep this on my mantle. This little book, 3 movies, they're stretching into this, which is kind of crazy. Which, you know what? I'm just going to talk about some of my negatives. Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna cheat and then go back into more positives. But let me tell you, the 2 things that didn't work for me all that much in the film, and it's really just 2. One is, you pointed out, the I can't remember if it was Keely or Feely that Evangeline Lilly develops the little.
I think it's Keely.
Is it Keely? Develops a little romantic love interest with. That didn't work for me. It just, I never felt it, didn't feel any of the chemistry. Wait a minute, just because of a quick conversation on opposite side of the bar, this immortal elf just falls in love with the dwarf.
He's a tall dwarf, John.
Okay, he's tall for a dwarf, yes. And don't get me wrong, a very handsome man. I didn't sense that at all. It didn't work for me, so whatever. I didn't hate it,
Yeah.
but it didn't work for me. The other thing that didn't really work for me, and I'll list this as one of the negatives, the political drama unfolding in Lake Town with the buffoon mayor or whatever his role is. I
Yeah.
can't remember what he was. Not the mayor,
Buffoon
but
kind of seizes it up.
the governor or whatever he was, and and Bar the Bowman. Then the political struggle going on there. That felt really out of place to me. Not needed. And the mayor or the governor's, whatever his title was again, his little sniveling right hand felt an awful lot like Wormtongue.
Yeah.
From
Oh, yeah.
the Lord of the Rings film. So it was like, yeah, so that didn't really work for me. But that first thing that didn't work for me, the relationship between Taladriel, or however you pronounce her name, Tariel, and the dwarf, while that didn't work for me, it did lead to a very interesting point in the film that I think is going to have really big repercussions as we go forward. And that's that moment when Legolas and her bust into the house in Lake Town, save the kids from the orcs. And then Legolas he's hell-bent on killing these orcs. So he starts hunting them down. And he turns to her and says, come on, let's go. But she's got her sick new love.
Yeah.
What does she choose? And she makes the choice to stay.
Legolas is going to be pissed.
To stay. Instead of going with Legolas to hunt these orcs. And I think that is going to have huge repercussions as we get into the third film. So even though I didn't like the love triangle thing that they've set up, I got to admit, it led to a very cool moment in the film that I thought was pretty good. And speaking of the other thing I didn't like, the whole political thing between the buffoon governor and Bard the Bowman, how good is Luke Evans as Bard?
He's so
awesome.
good.
I've been a fan of Luke Evans for a long time, but I got to admit, I wondered how would Luke throw in he's a known name now. Luke Evans is a recognizable known name now. And I thought taking him and suddenly dropping him into this, was he going to feel out of place? Will it feel a little forced? I got to tell you, for me, just worked. Just worked. I thought he was great as Bard the Bowman. So negatives and counterpoints. I mean, let's just keep talking. What else stands out to you guys, negative or positive about the film?
The only thing that, again, and it's not such a negative thing, but I wanted to see more desolation from Smaug because we have a battle brewing, folks. We have a big old battle brewing in the third film. And I just think that, as much as I want Smaug to continue, because I love Benedict Cumberbatch, I just love that whole rendition of this dragon on the screen.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're going to pack so much in the third now that I feel like that could be seen as a negative. Because
But wait, isn't it funny? We've gone from, in a few months, maybe in a year, we've gone from how the hell are they going to turn this book into 3 movies to how the hell are they going to fit this now into just 3 movies?
That's talent.
Have you seen what we've done now? We've completely gone from...
talent.
Anyway, sorry.
But
go ahead.
Yeah. So on the side, it's passion. It's contagious.
Yes.
On the subject of Luke Evans, though, I know that you have been a supporter. Like when we talked about the Crow remake and all these other films and like who would be Batman, I think he was even on your list.
He was one of my guys,
And I, this was the role for me that I finally get it. Like he's always been fine in all the other supporting roles that I saw, but this one, he brought a lot to that character.
Yeah, he really
when
did.
he's shepherding them across in the boat and like, I really believed it. He brought a lot. And then his whole family dynamic, and we saw a lot of different faces for this character, and I believed every single one of them. Another negative, I do agree with that whole political thing. It just didn't work. And then they had Bard playing against it, like being the oppressor,
The underground
Exactly.
rebel leader.
And
yeah.
again, it wasn't such a large part that it detracted from my enjoyment. That's my big thing. It's like when a movie takes me out and it's hard for me to get back in. It didn't detract, but I just didn't think it was necessary because I thought, that whole scene was really good without that bit. So, it's great to not have a lot of negatives that stand out. And even your negatives, like, did it detract from your overall enjoyment? Not really, right?
Not
this was a
really.
good-
I mean, for
good
a
movie.
moment or two it did,
Yeah.
and then I'm back in Middle Earth. What
I
about you,
will
Dennis?
agree that the love wasn't that convincing, but hey, chemistry is fascinating, and sometimes you have your eye on someone. He's a tall dwarf.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. I liked it just
Yeah,
fine. I
me too.
thought less so of love, but more of like there was an attraction. There was
exactly.
something there, so it didn't take me out. I think Tariel was great in it.
Me too.
I think my only real negative is because Gandalf is not with them, they kept kind of going to him once in a while, and I think that kind of storyline, I know why they did it, but at the same time, I wasn't that interested in it. They took a long time to like do that, where he goes to I forgot what the place is called, to search for
the fortress.
Yeah, search for the necromancer or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought they dragged that a little bit out, a little long, like, because you kind of already knew. Maybe it's because we already seen Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That we kind of knew what he was gonna find there.
I see that, and I also really like his banter with his whole fellowship. So I do think that since it was kind of like his own quest for a moment, I could see that, because I really think his interaction with the dwarves, with the elves, with all the other fascinating characters is part of the greatest dialogue of these films. So I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, you want to see more interaction with him and Bilbo and Thorin and all those other characters, not Radagast. I mean,
I love when Bilbo has the ring. And he's just like, you're off. And he's like about to tell him. And then he's just like, I found my confidence in the forest, or whatever he said. Yeah.
Courage.
My courage. He's like, good, you'll need it.
You know what? I'm glad you brought up that scene, because I won't go so far as to list it as one of my negatives, but I could have done without it. I didn't need us to see Sauron.
No.
I didn't need us to see Sauron. To me, that felt a little bit like Star Wars prequels. Look, there's R2-D2 or there's C-3PO. Totally didn't need to be there whatsoever. I mean, I think we haven't seen the third film yet.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling I would have liked it a lot more had this misty entity necromancer.
Yeah.
We all knew the whole time who he was. But they didn't need to reveal it to Gandalf.
Completely
I think they
agree.
still could have done everything with that scene and everything with him discovering the massing army and all that kind of stuff without Gandalf discovering it was actually Sauron behind it. Now, once again, we haven't seen the third film yet, so maybe they've got a very good plan in place for this. Yeah. But to me, it just reeked a little bit of, look, it's one of the guys from Lord of the Rings. And it just didn't feel like they needed to do that. But it didn't take me out. Like you said, about did it pull you out? No, it didn't pull me out. I just could have done
that.
That
would have been a really good place to start the next film with the eye and like with all of that. Like, I think that would have been a really good, like, okay, we're back in this world, So I'm sure they will start with a scene similar to that. But I agree. We all knew where it was going, but I kind of rather have them kept their cards to their vest for this newer audience.
Right.
And then showed us in the third film. But there is a lot, as we just revealed, to pack in with such a thin book. So.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's another thing that left me a little bit confused. I both love and hate, and maybe that's a good thing, the Elf King, Legolas's dad.
I think he's awesome.
But here's the really
kind
interesting
of a dick. That's why.
That's
But
why
the
I
thing
love him.
is, here's the thing, and this is why I love and hate him, and that's a good thing. He is a real dick. But the thing is, he's such a dick. I got a feeling Legolas would know by now that his dad's a dick. Because it's not like he's a veiled dick.
Yeah.
He is a dick. Yeah. And I just kind of
Best
feel like...
conversation ever.
Someone should make a t-shirt. You're a dick.
Don't fight your destiny.
I feel like he would have figured out by now, because he doesn't hide it. He doesn't hide what a douchebag he is. You figure Legolas would just know, but... It's part of what makes him a real compelling character. And knowing Peter Jackson, I won't be surprised at all if this dick ends up being a real hero in the third film, doing something really heroic. Peter Jackson seems to really be great, especially with these Lord of the Rings characters, about taking these really flawed characters and then giving them redemption moments, like he did with Boromir in the original Lord of the Rings films. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if come the end, because we know that the elves and the dwarves and the humans are all going to mass together. I mean, you might consider this a spoiler for the third film, but I mean, this is in the books, and most of us has read the books. Where all these armies are going to come together. So I have a feeling he might actually end up doing something pretty heroic in the third. But
I could see that. I mean, they even had King Theoden in Return of the
King.
He, I mean, he wasn't a dick or anything, but he was kind
of douchey.
He wasn't
kind of
a dick.
Why should we go help Gondor? Yeah. And then he goes and
Well, Tariel didn't pay attention to Dick. She did what she wanted. Don't go in the forest. I'm going.
I'm going to the forest because she loves her some dwarf.
Don't we all?
Speaking of, you mentioned that you thought that one part would have been a good place to start off the third film.
Yeah.
The ending this is one of the best cliffhanger endings to a film ever.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you what I thought they were going to do. I thought, and you can tell I purposely did not research this film going into it because I wanted to know as little as I could. As somebody who's already read the book, I thought going into it that this movie would end with the defeat of Smaug.
So did I, yeah.
And then the third film will be about the battle of the 4 or 5 armies. I'm forgetting now if it's 4. The battle of the 5 armies. And then the journey home. That's what I thought the third film was going to be. I am not disappointed that I was wrong. The ending of this, of a very pissed off Smaug. First, and the battle under the mountain with the dwarves and Smaug. And they made it believable because, a battle between Smaug and a bunch of dwarves. Done. But the way they orchestrated it felt, they were giving Smaug a run for his money. And then Smaug getting pissed off, and I'm going to kill them all. And it ends with Bilbo saying, "What have we done?" And it's like, and then screen goes black, and I could hear people around me going, "No,
yeah,
no," and that's where it ends.
Flew.
Great,
How
great
good was
cliffhanger.
Thorin? How good was Richard Armitage?
Oh my god,
he was so good. He completely and you think for those who didn't read the book, he is a very layered character. You're like, is he good? Is he bad?
Yeah.
What are his motives? I just thought he crushed that. He is such a sensational actor, and he's perfect for that role. So I loved that whole backstory of him, and he comes into the city, the little I love him.
I think that's another reason why I like this movie so much more than the first one, because I felt like the motivation of his character was made much more clear, and you could see it.
Yes.
You know, where in the first movie, they kind of say what they're gonna do, but then they just kind of walk around.
A lot for 3 hours.
Yeah. Where this one, it's I really felt okay, this is a quest, and he needs to get it done.
Yeah.
And I guess the importance of everything felt a lot more in this.
Then Bilbo feels betrayed, and he doesn't know who to believe. And I just thought they showed all those conflicts so brilliantly.
And we see the ring already causing just a slight hint of paranoia in Bilbo and whatever. But it's funny because you mentioned Thorin and Richard Armitage. We went back and watched the first Hobbit again the other night. 2 or 3 nights ago, we watched it again. It's amazing how much better the first film is after watching the second film.
Yeah.
And now I'm rewatching these scenes in the first Hobbit film with new eyes. And that one scene in the first Hobbit when they hear orcs in the night and somebody makes a joke about it, and Thorin kind of just walks off staring over the cliff, and Balin tells the story about them trying to take back Moria, and his grandfather getting killed, and him defeating the White Orc, and all that kind of stuff, and all that history. And that's what I'm realizing. This is a story about Thorin Oakenshield and his quest to take back his people's home. And really, that's what the whole story is when it comes back around. And they went into that. We see him in Lake Town being the leader, also a political force, right? His ability to rally people, even strangers, and give this impassioned speech, but he's also focused and driven. It's dude, you're sick. You're going to be no help to us going forward. So you got to wait here, making hard decisions. And yet his bravery and his courage in the fight with Smaug just one of my favorite characters of 2013. Just as a movie character, one of my favorite characters of 2013. I'm completely floored by him.
You mentioned the ring. How good was it when Bilbo put it on with Smaug? With the gold and everything.
Yeah.
He's where are you? I feel you. Whatever he was saying. It was so good.
I think I could be wrong, and I'll know if I'm wrong when we see it again tomorrow night, but I thought I remembered him saying, "I can taste your breath."
Oh my God.
I'm I might be remembering that wrong, but if I'm remembering it right.
He said something similar to that.
Yeah.
Where I don't even need to see you.
Yeah.
I can find you.
Where are you? It's oh my God. And one of the changes they made in that is Smaug starts to reference Sauron when he starts talking about that there's a darkness coming. There's something more. And it'll be interesting to see because obviously Sauron wants this mountain. Does he want it for the gold to raise his armies and do all the stuff that he wants to do? Or does he want it for Smaug? Does he wants to control Smaug? And obviously that's what Gandalf was worried about in the first film. He mentions there's a power in that mountain that the enemy desires. obviously Wrestling Smaug. I'm really curious to see what it is. What is Sauron's endgame about going after this mountain? So do you guys have any theories?
I mean, could it be something else? Like, could it be not the gold and not the dragon?
I haven't even considered that.
Like, they make up something new?
Oh, it might be the Arkenstone.
Maybe that
kind of feels
Because we still know very little about the Arkenstone.
And that was like the pivotal point of why, they got this thief to begin with, Bilbo and all of that.
Right.
So that could make sense.
And that's the other thing you were mentioning, Dennis, because you're saying that a lot of the motivation becomes a lot more clear.
Yeah.
Well, now also Bilbo's task with this becomes a lot more clear. Thorin needs the Arkenstone to rally the armies of the dwarves.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to go before the different kingdoms of the dwarves and hold up the Arkenstone to really rally them to his side. And the Arkenstone too that's what douchebag Dick wants, because when he said there's a white stone I want, and so he wants that Arkenstone as well. So maybe that's it. That's a really good theory. I haven't thought about it.
Yeah. Backtracking just a little bit, how good was the spider scene?
Oh, the spider scene was great.
Scene. Those were creepy.
Yeah, they were scary.
And all of them hanging up, and then again the ring took place there and took effect, and I thought that was a great scene.
Yeah, that was terrific. Gosh, we're gonna end this episode, and about 5 minutes after, I'm gonna be kicking myself for not mentioning about 6 or 7 other things.
And then we're gonna see it all again this weekend and want to talk about it again.
Yes, we're gonna talk about it. Maybe we'll do another part.
Part 2.
Part 2. Don't we just talk about everything we talked about before, but we just want to talk about it some more. But I think that wraps it up. So Dennis, let's start with you. Just wrapping up, just your overall thoughts on the film. And out of 10. And got to give it a score.
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's just a much more improved. It builds on the first one, but the thing is the pacing's a lot better, so you don't feel as...
That was a weakness of the first film.
Yeah,
Definitely.
The pacing's a lot better, and the motivations of the characters, and the dynamics between, the characters. One of the dynamics we didn't really talk about that much was the one between Bilbo and Thorin, because there's like this admiration yet also kind of rivalry in a way, like,
and he's condescending.
Yeah, Bilbo wants to prove himself to Thorin, but at the same time Thorin knows he needs him, but at the same time it's like, why is he here? So I think it's a movie that's gonna, on repeat viewings, just get better and better.
Yeah, I'm also giving it a 9, a very strong 9. I loved this film. I thought the visuals were beautiful and crisp and rich. Middle-earth has never looked better. I thought the pacing they mastered. Some of the best action sequences I've seen all year in cinema. The characters were great. Again, it felt very reminiscent of Lord of the Rings, which I just love so much. And it was more fun than The Hobbit. It was just all the way through. And like you're saying, the relationships, the characterization, so great. Some of the best. I love the introduction of the new characters, and it left me just completely hungry for more. And Smaug, one word, Smaug. It was amazing.
Make it 3 for 3. I am also going to give this a 9 out of 10. It took all of my fears, which forcing these new characters in and all the changes and additions they've made from the book. Those are my biggest fears, and they did both of them brilliantly. Legolas felt like he fit in this world. Evangeline's new character, she felt like she fit in the world. All the new material and all the changes that they made feel like they are organically grown from the spirit of The Hobbit. Everything fit. Some of the best action sequences all year. It did some great character development. Motivations, as Dennis pointed out, became much more clear, much better pacing than the first film, which was probably my biggest problem with the first film. Just they built on it, they improved it, they took their strengths, made them better. It's a fun film.
So fun.
A fun movie. And I also say that as much as I like the first Hobbit, I was just drawn in because of the world of Middle-earth. It didn't have a lot of fun to it.
Yeah.
This one also brought the element of fun back.
So fun.
And I love this film. I'm going to see this 4 or 5 times probably in theater. It clocks in at 2 hours and 41 minutes.
And doesn't feel that way, which is a true testament to the
Flies
pacing.
by.
Yeah.
I think that people, because there was a lot of people that were critical of the first one. I think when they watch this one, I think they'll change their minds.
I agree.
Yeah, because like I said, when
back.
you go back and watch the first one again, after watching the second one, the first one becomes an even better film. Because you see it as a part now of a larger story. And as the first act, the first movement in an overall symphony.
Yeah.
And it feels so good. And that's how good the second film
feels
is.
so good.
So anyway, folks, listen, since you all who are watching this have seen the movie also, jump into the comments section and let us know your thoughts on The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Let us know what you would score it, what you thought about some of the positives and the negatives that we raised up about the film. Share your experience with everybody else. Let's keep the conversation going. And by the way, if you want to see it again tonight, no better place to go see it than at AMC Theaters. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and of course, Hobbit movie ticket information. So I want to thank Amy Rose Eisenbach, Mr. Dennis Zen, and thank you most of all to you guys for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And until next time, my name's John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until then, bye-bye.